The $5 meal deal at McDonald's means you get to pick between a McDouble or a McChicken. Then get a small fry, a small drink, and a 4-piece McNuggets. That's a lot of McDonald's for not a lot of money. Get the $5 meal deal today.
Prices and participation may vary for a limited time only.
My dad works in B2B marketing. He came by my school for career day and said he was a big ROAS man. Then he told everyone how much he loved calculating his return on ad spend. My friends still laugh at me to this day.
Not everyone gets B2B, but with LinkedIn, you'll be able to reach people who do. Get a $100 credit on your next ad campaign. Go to linkedin.com/results to claim your credit. That's linkedin.com/results. Terms and conditions apply. LinkedIn, the place to be, to be.
Hey folks, welcome to the Unsung Podcast. My name is Mark and I'm joined by my good friend Chris. This week we conclude our voyage into the music of the film franchise The Crow. Last week, on the first part of this odyssey, we spoke about the frankly terrible sequel to the original Crow film, which also had inexplicably great soundtracks. And then we also spoke at length about the new Crow film and why that is basically a pale imitation of everything this franchise stands for. This week we're going to tie up our thoughts on the new Crow film by talking about the soundtrack for that particular piece of work. And then we're going to get to the real meat of it, the excellent soundtrack for the excellent 1994 original film, also called The Crow. But before we get to any of that, we've got a couple of things we've got to get out of the way. First of all, if you like this podcast and you want to support us, one of the coolest things you can do that costs you nothing is give us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. That's really good for our visibility on those platforms. If you give us a rating and review, those platforms show our podcast to more people and then they can listen to our great witty banter about things like the Crow franchise. But say that's not enough, say you're like, I really have already done that and I want to give those boys a little bit more, then you can also contribute some of your cold, hard cash to this show. Go to patreon.com/unsungpod to learn a little bit more about what's on offer there. But brief overview, we've got 2 tiers. We've got our basic tier, which is the AAA tier, where you can get access to our Unsung Facebook group, you can get access to episodes a few days early, and you can get access to bonus episodes. If you want to give us a little bit more though, we've also got our record club where we will give you records every month for £15. And what we do is we take the money that we get for that record club and we go out there and find artists that we think are underappreciated. And we buy records directly from them or from their labels, and then we then give you those records. And it's a really good way for us to give back to the community and to help support some grassroots artists that you would probably never otherwise come across in your daily listening habits. Patreon.com/unsungpod to learn more about what's on offer there. Alright, so let us talk about The Crow.
It's worth noting the comments of Rupert Sanders, though, the director of the new one, on the original, and on the original's the role of music in it. So he says, it was the first movie that was for that audience and the first film that unabashedly was into that kind of music. With his reimagined Crow, he wanted to honour the first movie's hard rock edge, apparently, whilst bringing in electronic and new wave artists to reflect his own personal tastes. And he continued, it's really about people who have been making dark love songs and melancholy music across the last 30 years. So it's like, So he was trying to do that. So he was on the record as having said that he wanted it to be a hard rock film with bits of electronica. So I know what you're saying, like it feels very like directionless and committee led, but he seems to think that he's made a rock movie, and that to me is totally baffling. Like, it's like, mate, how many guitars are even on that fucking soundtrack?
There's Joy Division song on it, obviously. There's a Gary Newman song on it, which is a great song.
The thing is though, right, so even though I found a lot of the needle drops incredibly clunky and incredibly thirsty, right, so we're not doing this movie, but in terms of the tracks, we'll skip past Debussy and that De Pas sur la Neige track, but Joy Division, Disorder.
I've been waiting for a guy to come and take me by the hand. Cure these sensations, make me feel the pleasures of a normal man. New sensations spare the insults.
It's the first time an actual Joy Division performance has appeared in The Crow, which is fair enough.
It should have been in the first one because he fucking loves it. Like, James O'Barr clearly loves them.
Yeah, but the thing is, right, and this will become clear why it wasn't in a moment, right? But Unknown Pleasures, it's peak Joy Division. To me, it's very thirsty when it kicks in during that escape from the centre scene. They're hoping for goosebumps, but it contradicts what we'll find out is the stated aim of that original soundtrack in refusing to rely on the already existing hits for impact. That was specifically what The Crow 94 didn't want to do, and that's exactly what they do again with the Gary Newman track. You know, it's a big 80s needle drop it's the first revenge scene in the film, and it's also got that semi-diegetic thing because it starts in the audience's ears, but then he turns it off in a car radio. It's a decent payoff as a track, but it specifically opposes the modus operandi of the original, which was do not rely on big established hits to get the impact here. Create new music, create new content for the musical world. There's a couple other things that I think fall into that category much better. So there's the fourth track in it is by Traitors. That's Traitors without an O. The track's called Thin Flesh. Sounds like a Crow tune title. It's interesting because it's a totally passable replicant 80s new wave goth pop song. I think the band formed in about 2015 and this is for about 2018. They do a very capable job of completely copying a style and a sound that's existed exactly in that form for 30 years, and the song is decent, but I'm not really moved to applaud them because it is so taken from something that is already there. Even though it's contemporary, it's incredibly backwards facing, and would I actually have preferred an 80s tune? I couldn't really quite decide. At least it's somebody new, but it's like an AI version of a song of that era. There's Phil Kieran and Aaron Thomas, I think it is, The Killer. It's industrial techno, and it actually reminded me of a song from Blade, which is another appropriate reference. It's got a slight EBM feel to it, which kind of puts it in with the Crow stuff, but it's also really just typical of pretty much any club scene in a movie now. You know, whether it's Blade or whether it's John Wick or whether it's Batman or anything like that, you always have that club scene, and it's always fucking sounding like this now. You got The Veils, who, by the way, produced by LP. the song Total Depravity has a hip-hop approach to the electro. The vocal comes in somewhere between the National and Typo Negative, and to me this tune probably fits the best with the remit of the original soundtrack, because the Veils, I think they've got like 4 or 5 albums. They're working with LP, they're not like nobodies, but it's a band that they're drawing your attention to through the soundtrack.
This total depravity standing right in front of me.
And I've no major complaints about that one at all. It fits tonally, and it would more of that, I think, would have worked. You've got the Enya track, Boudica, Boudicca, if you're wondering what I'm saying there, but Boudica, I think it's pronounced. I do wonder if this film had done better, if we'd maybe have seen an Enya songs. You know what I mean? Like, she may have enjoyed, she may still enjoy a bump for this, actually, because she gets up the most mentions when you see people discussing the music. It's definitely the most interesting bit of scoring in the film, because I think he's suiting up and doing his makeup for his first big revenge rampage.
The last time.
Aye, it's still just funny though how far Enya has come on her voyage of credibility.
Just sitting in a fucking castle, not making new music for about 20 years and just like living off the land. Like.
And going back to like how Enya used to be perceived when Enya first came out, like fucking tea and biscuits music, and now it's like the Crow on like preparing for the bloodiest fucking scene.
Yeah.
You fuck me, man. There's a track in it called Meaning by Cascadeur.
I'm the speaker.
This one was really odd. I had to look this up, right, because this guy does like falsetto alternative pop, and he wears like almost like a strange flight suit, like quasi Daft Punk.
Like a monster, but someday you'll understand the meaning of my words.
It's a pretty out there selection. The version in the film was like a choral version of the original. I don't know, it might have been interesting in a better film, this one. And then the film closes and the soundtrack closes with a Foles song, the track What Went Down. I'm not a big Foles fan.
They can fuck off. I don't like that band.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it, but it's not the worst song. It's a band that rode high and they carry a bit of cred. The title of the song, What Went Down, felt a wee bit on the nose, I think, to put it at the end of a movie. But it's kind of snazzy and it's driving, it's a little bit minor, but I didn't feel that it really fitted a Crow film. It just felt like out of place.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, there's a couple of moments on this that could have been good, but the film probably lets down a couple of promising tracks. Like I said, maybe the Veils, maybe Cascadeur. Likewise, a lot of the tracks do nothing to elevate the movie itself, apart from maybe the Enya one, because it's at least really interesting. And I think it just really goes against what we'll find out was the stated aim of that original soundtrack. I don't know, yeah, I mean, it doesn't really sculpt a coherent musical identity either, clearly, because you said, rightly, I think, it feels like it's all over the map, whereas the director's saying, oh yeah, it's totally a rock thing with a wee bit of electro. You're like, fuck me, man. I just think it's a fucking mess. I think the movie's a mess. I think the soundtrack's a mess. I think the whole fucking concept is just a bit of a mess, and it's really disappointing.
I don't think the movie was a mess. I just think it's dull as fuck. It's a movie without purpose, really. And I got annoyed watching it because it doesn't really pull enough from the original source material to make it even remotely a Crow story, apart from the fact it's the guy's the Crow. Do you know what I mean? And that fucked me off, because there's so much cool stuff that happens in the comic and in the original film. And I think it is possible. It probably would be possible to make a really good remake of it. You know, if you got it right and then tried to modernise it in the way they've... I mean, I think modernising it's the correct approach, but I think they've done it the wrong way in the film.
I mean, god damn it, man. Imagine, a bit like Joker and Batman, imagine they just done a movie where they explored the two kind of incestuous villains for the first Crow, because I think they're fucking brilliant characters. You know that whole thing where they're like sleeping with people and then keeping their eyes and stuff like that. I mean, it's so dark, man. Bai Ling's character in that is so fucking creepy.
Yeah, you don't get that. That's not in the comic at all.
Game of Thronesy, actually, the way that they do it. It's really good. Anyway, yeah, so I mean, I guess we should probably just talk about The Crow. As we said,
Yeah.
$3.8 million sales in the USA alone. I've not been able to find out the worldwide sales, but triple platinum at least in the States. So
Can I make a small clarification that I was just reading there? The Crow actually made $92 million at the box office
All right,
on a
okay.
$23 million budget.
Original.
The original.
Right, okay. So the production team on this, or development and production team, is a guy called Jeff Most and a woman called Jolene Cherry. There's some good interviews out there actually with them, Mashable and LA Times, to name a couple. So I think it was LA Times, Jeff Most had said the original concept of the soundtrack was to do it where no one's heard a single song in the movie and it's all original. That was the first idea behind it. That's not what happened, but that was the driving force to begin with. So it was Jeff Most that called him Draven, Eric Draven. He actually had to ask for permission to do that. James Abar, apparently we were talking about this earlier, originally felt that Eric would have something like a job as a house painter.
Well, he does paint. He does paint a house. He does paint a house in the book. So.
Yeah, and that's it. He said he would do something really unglamorous like a house painter.
Yep.
Jeff Most was basically an ex-radio DJ, and he suggested, can we make him a musician? He's banned in the film. If you're doing a pub quiz, Hangman's Joke.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Yep, that's right.
But he also specified, I want to put him in a band, but I don't want it to be a big band. I want him to just be in a small alternative rock group where he can be a little bit sort of solipsistic and kind of self-involved and play guitar and just be that kind of moody, long-haired, kind of attractive, enigmatic guy. So Jeff Most and Jolene Cherry wanted to push the music in a dark direction, just like the visual aesthetic of the film, metal and goth and industrial. They also wanted as many original tracks as possible. The studio was very resistant and right from the start wanted to focus on big, recognisable hit songs of that 93 era. And you can imagine there's loads and loads of alternative stuff that they were kind of angling for. But that is until Trent Reznor got involved, and Trent Reznor unlocked this whole fucking thing, and it's amazing to see. I mean, Trent Reznor was still relatively early on in his role as a big influencer.
Yeah, this was they were about to record the Downward Spiral when this came out.
Well, so
or when the track came out.
Yeah, they'd only done Pretty Hate Machine and the kind of Broken Fixed EPs at this point. They sent Trent Reznor the script and the comic, and he invited Jeff Most out to California where they were actually recording Downward Spiral in the Tate LaBianca house that we spoke about in the Nine Inch Nails episode. Jeff Most remembered, quote, I went through the bands I wanted and Trent was like, I love all these bands, but no one's going to let you make this album, Jeff. And I said, Trent, I really believe if you say yes, I'll be able to do it. And Trent replied, I'm in, but can I pick whatever Joy Division song I might want to do? And Most answered, anyone you want. And Nine Inch Nails' involvement drew the interest of the record executives. Interscope and Atlantic signed on to put out the album, and basically at that point Most and Cherry were just officially allowed to go on the hunt for what they felt were the perfect tracks to fill it. So it totally unlocked this whole concept, and the soundtrack helped boost the film, and the film sort of had a feedback loop into the soundtrack, and all of this that we're talking about comes from that agreement, that unlocking there.
Very cool.
In terms of stuff that was refused or left out, I didn't know this. Jeff Most has said that he refused one particular song which would go on to be a massive hit because he worried about how it might reflect badly on Brandon Lee's death. He was talking to Mashable and he said, I'm probably copping to this for the first time. The one song that I should have included but didn't was Radiohead's Creep. Which kind of hangs over my head. I should have put it on the record.
When you were here before, couldn't look you in the eye. You're just like an angel.
Maybe I was very emotionally affected, but when I heard the lyrics I just worried, but in hindsight I should have been more objective. So Creep would have been on The Crow.
That's weird.
That's mad, eh?
Yeah.
Another near miss was Smashing Pumpkins.
That would have made sense.
So the track Silverfuck from Siamese Dream was specifically written for The Crow. When you listen to the lyrics, it makes total sense. But then the band's label heard it and actually asked the band, no, include it on the album instead. We don't want to give it away to this soundtrack. And the final big miss was White Zombie. So here's a really good quote for Jeff Most. I don't want to put anyone under a bus, but there was a record company president who said, these guys will never sell 50,000 records in their entire career. And I said, you're 100% wrong. These guys have an amazing sound. The song is great. And according to Jeff Most, the executive countered, it can't be on the record because they're not going anywhere. You're just wrong. Mm-hmm. So Rob Zombie was on tour with White Zombie at the time, and he was apparently on set while they were filming The Crow, hanging out with them, really friendly with Brandon Lee, apparently watching the filming. And because Jeff Most was so annoyed about missing the White Zombie, Rob Zombie inclusion, he put Rob Zombie top of the priority list. For the next one, yeah.
And they were on the one after that as well. And
yeah, and as you hinted at earlier on as well, in the late 1990s, a sequel or / reboot to The Crow that was titled The Crow 2037 was in the works and was going to be set in the future, and it was written and scheduled to be directed by Rob Zombie.
Yeah, that would have been his first film at that point.
Could have been really interesting.
Yeah.
Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. Shopify is there to help you grow. Shopify helps you sell everywhere, from their all-in-one e-commerce platform to their in-person POS system. Shopify's got you covered. Shopify helps you turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout, 36% better on average compared to other leading commerce platforms, and sell more with less effort thanks to Shopify Magic, your AI-powered all-star. What I love about Shopify is how no matter how big you want to grow, Shopify gives you everything you need to take control and take your business to the next level. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the U.S., and Shopify is the global force behind Allbirds, Rothy's, and Brooklinen, and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. Plus, Shopify's award-winning help is there to support your success every step of the way. Because businesses that grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Westwood1. All lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
With the $5 meal deal at McDonald's, you pick a McDouble or a McChicken, then get a small fry, a small drink, and a 4-piece McNuggets. That's a lot of McDonald's for not a lot of money.
Price and participation may vary. For a limited time only.
I mean, but I guess we're putting it off, but we just go through the track list.
So I know there's one song which I think would have been perfect in this soundtrack, and it's How Soon Is Now by the Smiths.
Yeah, but that's exactly what they were trying to avoid.
Yeah.
Is going for, I mean, you're right, sonically, absolutely, but they did not want recognisable hits on this.
Yeah.
They wanted the songs to grow. They wanted them to do their own work.
That's my own Bernstein Bears moment.
That you felt it was in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But to be fair, there's
that noise.
Yeah, there's a lot of vibes of that song on the first song, Burn by The Cure.
Yes, exactly. But can I just ask, by the way, you know, we're sometimes quite critical of runtime. This is a 63 plus minute soundtrack. Does that apply with soundtracks?
I don't know. I don't think so, because you're going on a journey with the film, right? And the film is usually over an hour and a half long.
Okay, so that's a new rule for Unsung Pod.
I don't agree with it, but I can accept it.
We're more accommodating though if it's a movie. Right, okay, so yeah, Burn by The Cure. By the way, a 6-minute 17 song. It's fucking long.
Just for the film?
Yeah. So I want to refer back to something we said earlier on about the full page thing in the comic, the original comic. So when they approached The Cure, Robert Smith said he'd never even heard of the Crow comic, and Jeff Most was saying, so I went back to James O'Barr and I said, James, you know you've got used by permission all over the place in the comics, and Robert Smith has never heard of the comics. And James O'Barr goes, well, yeah, every time I've seen lyrics used in comics, it says used by permission, so I just added that. So
it's not in this.
Exactly. So all those used by permission things are not actually true. So Robert Smith was sent the comic, he liked it, and he agreed to write an original song for the film, which was the first time The Cure had ever done that. He I mean, a lot of them just got the vague concept, the ones that wrote original things, but he was sent early footage. No, he was sent footage.
Okay.
He was sent the footage of, I think it's when Brandon Lee's putting on the makeup. You know, he's doing the first, he's kind of having a bit of a kind of like episode in his apartment, you know, and he's getting like all done up and he's dealing with the angst, and it's all very kind of thrashing about. It's quite a physical scene.
Yeah, because he looks at the masks that Shelley used to collect, and
That's
it's
right.
like, that's what I'm going to do.
So that's the scene. He had about 6 minutes or so of that, and he just based the song on that.
It's a cool little bit of lore building, because that's not even like he just has it in the comic. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's pretty interesting that they only recorded this. I think they wrote and recorded this song in a couple of days, which is fascinating. And it was just Robert Smith and the drummer that wrote and recorded it.
Yeah.
So that's cool. It does give me House on Is Now vibes. It has a really good use of atmospherics. An actual crow cawing is in it.
Yeah.
It's a really great song. It encapsulates the moody.
Probably spent most of the 2 days outside trying to catch a crow.
Probably. It really encapsulates the moody gothic feel of the film. The bass tone is probably my favourite thing about it. I also really enjoy the drum sound and drum composition. Loads of tom work on it.
Yeah. That's the thing. The tom work is really what contributes to this film. It's really rhythmic.
Yeah, it's also quite an indulgent song, which kind of keeps in the feel of the film. I think the film was quite indulgent in its gothicness. Mm-hmm. Most gothic stuff is indulgent, to be honest.
I mean, that's part of the fun. That's what I was saying about him playing guitar at the window in the sunset. It's like, fuck it, let him do it.
There's a bit in the comic where when he goes to Gideon's pawn shop. That's pretty much scene for scene, note for note. And there's a bit where Gideon's blood's dripping off a Gibson guitar.
Oh yeah,
yeah. And in the film, he grabs the guitar along with the guns, but he doesn't do that. So it was right there the whole time.
It's
right
nice.
in front of you the whole time. Like I said here, it's a movie that very much wallows in its own gothic angst, and this song does that perfectly. Would The Hanging Garden have been a better fit?
Creatures kissing in the rain, shapeless in the dark again.
I don't know. That's also a very good song.
Aye, but again, would have gone against his.
But even though Hanging Garden was in this, right, they are actually, I read in a Revolve article that they were actually thinking about originally giving pornography, the song, to it, and they didn't. And they wrote the own one. So,
second track, Machines of Love and Grace with Golgotha Tenement Blues. You know, going through the fan lists, this is an incredibly popular track for this soundtrack. Like, it's really, really big. And it is kind of, that bum, 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 bow.
Yeah.
So iconic for this movie.
I agree. I thought this was really interesting because the Machines of Love and Grace were really involved with the project earlier on, and they were one of the first bands to be asked to be on the soundtrack, and they got the script a year before it was even filmed. That's how early on they were involved. But yeah, I think it's a really serpentine sounding song. It's actually like I've written as a sleazy slither of a song, because it feels like that.
Say that 10 times fast.
No. It also calls down really big Nine Inch Nails vibe, like pop industrial meets industrial metal kind of feel.
Yeah.
The vocal's quite interesting. It's a bit Nick Cavey or Tom Waitsy.
It reminds me a wee bit like bands like Gravity Kills and stuff. These kind of like sort of industrial rock, a bit of grunge to them and stuff. It's just so well suited. I mean, I think it's a song that on its own, it just wouldn't really have stood out to me, but it's become so synonymous with the film. And I think even just the tenement thing, it contributes to that inner city vibe of The Crow, which I think is far more apparent in the original film than it is in the new one.
Yeah, the whole thing with the landlord and stuff like that was put in the film specifically to kind of reflect that. when I listen to this, it calls to mind the dark, seedy streets of that world as well. You know, so it does really affect the mood, I think.
So I have a feeling we're probably going to diverge in this one. But the third track, Stone Temple Pilots with the track Big Empty.
Driving faster in my car.
Can I just give a little bit of background here? So they were due to record a track called Only Dying.
Yes.
So they changed tack after Brandon Lee's death on set because, you know, in a Mashable interview, they actually said the song Only Dying was picked to play in the movie. Its lyrics evoking Eric Draven's gallows humour, because he does have a bit of that in the film. You know, like the tabletop scene, he's quite sort of sarcastic and a bit kind of like, you know, I quite like that about him. You know, but the track was meant to kind of make light of the fact that of his death and the fact that he came back. But obviously after Lee died, they felt it was just a bit disrespectful to use it. They went for Big Empty from the second Stone Temple Pilots album. I think it was Purple. Now, I did know Stone Temple Pilots from Core. There was like one or two tracks in that I quite liked, but they were always a wee bit like a budget grunge band. The Purple album is really good, actually. I think it's a really good record, and I kind of loved this song, to be honest. And now, bearing in mind, I was 14 years old, or 13 when this film came out. I just really, the tunefulness of it is dark, it is kind of moody, but it's also one of the most anthemic bits of the soundtrack.
Apparently Scott Weiland wanted to re-record this. The guitar tone in particular was something they wanted to redo. I think one of the guys in the band said that they were trying to channel The Cure when they wrote it. I don't really know if it gets there, to be honest. It's kind of got a weird loungy feel to me, which doesn't really fit the mood of the film.
Yeah, it is the slickest one. I agree. It's not completely on there, but I think it just manages to just shade it for me. It just gets in there. You know, it does have a little bit of Curie guitar effect.
Yeah.
It needed that. And also his voice isn't his usual fucking egg, because, oh my God, Only Dying is what did I call it earlier on? Like a 6-egg omelette tipped straight in the bin. It's fucking horrible.
For me, this song just feels like a bar band laying out a kind of lazy pub rock song. And it's not atmospheric enough or dark enough or dramatic enough for me.
You're right. It's the least of all of those things of the other tracks. Okay, granted, some of those I'll concede. However, I do think it's quite known in its lounginess. I mean, the slide guitar thing, even the tone of the slide guitar and stuff like that, the cigar box guitar thing, it worked for me, because one thing this soundtrack could have done is become too oppressive, and this track does stop it getting too oppressive.
Speaking of oppressive, the Joy Division cover by Nine Inch Nails. So this was recorded before the Downward Spiral, before they started the sessions. But also still in the Tate House, same session essentially.
There is a rumour kicking about, by the way, that Reznor wanted to do Love Will Tear Us Apart. It's one of those rumours that it was on a few fan sites, and I couldn't really verify it or not, because he was apparently given free rein over what tune they did. But anyway, Dead Souls is the one they went for. There was another rumour as well that Nine Inch Nails were meant to be in the movie, but supposedly that isn't actually true. Trent Reznor at the time wanted to avoid things like that, so My Life for the Thrill Kill Cult did that scene instead, the one in the club.
Probably a good thing for Nine Inch Nails, to be honest.
Yeah. It was happening though. Remember Deftones were in oh good God, what's that film about the recording thing of memories? It'll come back to me. So whoever you are listening to this podcast right now, you're screaming it at it, sorry. I'll remember soon.
The gated reverb and overall moody nature of the composition really slots nicely into the world of the film. I think Trent's voice is like definitely right in that kind of zone for this, and the band are kind of riding that nice gothic energy that they would then bring to the Downward Spiral. A drum machine sound, I guess, is the thing that really works for me here. It gives a big nighttime vibe. The guitar sounds are super compressed, like Nine Inch Nails usually is, but it's got the airiness of the rhythm section.
Strange Days.
Strange Days. Yeah,
Strange Days. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a really good song. It's not quite got the intensity of Downward Spiral, which is good, because I think if it had the intensity of Downward Spiral, it might have actually felt a bit out of place on the soundtrack.
It's kind of, the guitar quality is a bit closer to like Pretty Hate Machine. It's got that slightly rudimentary sound to it still. The fifth track on it, Rage Against the Machine, Darkness. Is actually a re-recording of a 1991-92 B-side called Darkness of Greed.
I was big into Rage Against the Machine when I was growing up as well, and I'd actually heard the original demo of this just through file sharing. I had absolutely no idea they'd re-recorded it for the soundtrack. I just thought that song was one of the songs that was done in the demo that got them signed, and then they never revisited it, but they did for this, and obviously just named it Darkness.
Shortened the title, yeah. I mean, I have to say with this track, it's one of those moments with Rage Against the Machine where I fall out with their lyrics. There's lines in it. AIDS is killing the entire African nation, and a vaccine is still supposedly under preparation, but these governments, they don't mind their procrastination. They say they'll kill them off, take their land and go there for a vacation. The implication being that the rest of the world could cure AIDS if it wanted to, but it doesn't bother because it just wants to let the Africans die of it and take all their land. That's a level of like one step down the road to QAnon that I really fall out with. As much as I agree with a lot of stuff that Rage Against the Machine are into, and as much as I do not have a lot of time or much time at all for big pharma companies, I just think that kind of shit is where I really got off the Rage Against the Machine bandwagon. You know, it's very, it reminds me a bit of like Hixian, you know, Bill Hicks sort of conspiracy stuff as well, which was like, I liked it a bit at the time, but actually it was the thin end of the wedge.
It comes from that place of, it could potentially have been true back then because people didn't know any better, right? So there's obviously that shit floating around, but it's also anti-authoritarian, which is kind of really what they're getting at. They're kind of crossing wires a wee bit in an uncomfortable way.
Exactly. You know? It's just a bit jingoistic, and I don't know how much they'd stand by it now, but it just fuck me, man. I fell out of it.
I think this song itself is fine. It's got a cool guitar break towards the end where they plays a solo, which is good. I really enjoyed the funky loungy bits where it's just drum and bass. That's the thing I prefer the most in this song.
That stuff's the best stuff in it. And see, the thing is, though, again, talking about Stone Temple Pilots stuff, I think that stuff is tonally out with the movie, but I think that stuff being there balances the soundtrack. It stops it getting too morose and too oppressive, you know. So I do think that bit in particular is really useful in the film. The sixth track, Violent Femmes, Colour Me Once.
It's not the Violent Femmes, you know.
It's definitely not. I mean, fucking, what amazed me about that was how little it seemed to sound like the music the Violent Femmes are best known for, i.e. Blister in the Sun, but also stuff like Country Death Song.
Finally I stunk. It was at that time I swear I lost my mind. Started making plans to kill my own kind.
Apparently they thought it was a quote experimental recording that they were unsure what the fuck to do with it, and so they gave it to this film.
It's definitely experimental for them.
I love it, man. It's soulful, melancholy, beautiful, sparse arrangement. I mean, I think it's a really, really good fucking song. I loved it at the time.
Once, calling me twice, everything gonna turn out nice. Everlasting arms, you gotta keep me.
It also shows that I think his name is Gordy Gano was a pretty fucking good singer when he felt like it as well.
Yeah, the down-tempo feel of this song is a great fit for the film. It's not super moody, but it does have that kind of real 70s noirish feel to it. You know, I think it's that organ sound mostly that gives it that.
I love the echo as well, though. So you know the rim clicks, they echo like raindrops. It kind of goes boop.
That's actually a cool thing. I don't find it to be hugely catchy, but I do enjoy how it breaks down into a jam towards the end with like some funky guitar and stuff. It feels to me like a bar band are fucking about at the end of the night whilst everybody's leaving, and I quite like that vibe.
There's
for
a lot of cigarette smoke and stuff going about with it. I think it's a great song, honestly. The seventh one, Rollins Band doing Ghost Rider, which is a cover of the band Suicide.
Aye.
Ghost rider, motorcycle hero. Baby, he's looking so cute.
I mean, can I be honest? I never really liked Rollins Band. I mean, despite the man himself being a terrific spoken word performer, extremely smart, charismatic, I've met him, he was lovely. They just never escaped sounding meat-headed and dead basic to me. I think this tune's dumb, and I think it's a contender for my least favourite on here.
I like the updated proto-punky stomp of the song. I can imagine, like, as the baddies are walking around the street getting into nasty business with like this song swaggering behind them. I actually quite like Rollins' delivery on it, and some of the lead guitar work is quite good.
They're good guitarists.
Yeah.
The Rollins Band were very, very much known for that.
But the song itself is just whatever.
Yeah.
Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. Shopify is there to help you grow. Shopify helps you sell everywhere, from their all-in-one e-commerce platform to their in-person POS system. Shopify's got you covered. Shopify helps you turn browsers into buyers with the internet's best converting checkout, 36% better on average compared to other leading commerce platforms, and sell more with less effort thanks to Shopify Magic, your AI-powered all-star. What I love about Shopify is how no matter how big you want to grow, Shopify gives you everything you need to take control and take your business to the next level. Shopify powers 10% of all e-commerce in the U.S., and Shopify is the global force behind Allbirds, Rothy's, and Brooklinen, and millions of other entrepreneurs of every size across 175 countries. Plus, Shopify's award-winning help is there to support your success every step of the way. Because businesses that grow with Shopify. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/Westwood1. All lowercase. Go to shopify.com/Westwood1 now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/Westwood1.
The eighth one, Helmet and Milk Toast. And that's Milk Toast with a K. Notably not Milk Toast, which was Milque, which is the original version, the album version from Betty, Helmet's third album. That we've covered on the Helmet episode, obviously. This version has a bunch of feedback loops in the bridge, and it doesn't have the fade out ending. It's got a kind of distorted ending. It completely switched me onto this band, who went on to become one of my all-time favourite bands, and in doing so gave the name to this podcast. Really, we mentioned quite a bit about it on that Mean Team episode, so go back and listen to that. But the tune has a stranger, it's kind of gothier production than most Helmet stuff, and I think it sets it up perfectly for the soundtrack because it really beds in.
Yeah.
Page Hamilton has spoken to LA Times quite a lot about The Crow. I mean, he was a really big fan of it, but how the soundtrack in particular, he feels it helped meld a lot of disparate movements at the time, you know, and in the same way that Helmet the band were trying, and, you know, Judgment Night and stuff all played a part in that as well. For example, he was a huge fan of the Jesus and Mary Chain when he was growing up, so to be on a collection that combined them and Nine Inch Nails and Rage Against the Machine and Violent Femmes, things that might have been seen as quite factional genres, he felt they were creating a much bigger, more fertile alternative scene that would encourage future kind of crossover and broaden the horizons of what these bands might do. Now, the downside of that is, in some ways, I think The Crow, Judgment Night, they all set the scene for new metal as well.
Definitely. It's such a good riff, you know. This song actually feels more feral than the original or the other version. The bass tone on this does give me heavy new metal vibes.
Yeah, well, we've spoken about their sins, you know, them and Faith No More.
Bush Vig did produce this one, which is not who produced. It's not who produced Meantime, was it?
No, this was on Betty.
Betty. So, but he didn't produce that either, because I think this was the first time and the only time they've worked with him. I think because it was his idea to do the feedback loop thing, and it was also his idea to actually change the dynamics of the song up as well. Which Page Hamilton said his what was the exact quote? I'd wanted to work with Butch before, but I was wary because of the whole Nirvana thing. Record companies wanted everything Nirvana, but we wanted everything to be Nirvana, but we weren't Nirvana. And he had suggestions for the song. His idea to have no guitars on the first verse. Hamilton says that Vig was like, why don't you just mute the guitars here and just do this vocal thing? And then he put on like the AM radio Pink Floyd effect. Yeah. It was actually quite influential in the composition of that song, which is pretty cool.
It is, and it's weird how they only use it once as well.
Yeah. A Badge by Pantera.
Ugh.
Stuck on this.
So it's covered a Poison Idea.
Stuck on this.
Yeah,
it's a stupid one-dimensional track. It's not the worst here though. I mean, it is what it is. It just doesn't really fit the vibe though, and fuck Pantera.
It's pretty straight-laced as a cover, to be honest. The only thing that I think sets it apart for the original is, apart from the guitar tones, which are, you know, nasty like Pantera always is, fucking class guitar solo, like fucking really good. But he was some player, Dimebag, that's to be expected.
I don't really have any quarrel with Dimebag, but, you know, my beef lies elsewhere.
Yeah.
The 10th one, For Love Not Lisa, Slip Slide Melton. So I saw a really interesting thing on one of the fan threads, right? I saw an ex-member of this band on one of them. He'd left the band after school, and then he saw them on the soundtrack to this in 1994, and he said he was filled with dread because he thought, oh no, I left a band that's going to become huge, and then they didn't.
They didn't, no.
And he admits later on in the thread to being a wee bit relieved. Yeah, I mean, I remember hearing a lot of stuff similar to this around the time, and I think just a lot of it also faded into obscurity. You know, it's fine, but it's very generic. It's almost the kind of band that Eric Draven would have been in.
Yeah. The singer Mike Lewis said this was a highlight of our band's entire career. So, just even
For Love Not Lisa. I mean, fucking hell.
Even the folk in the band thought that was going to be the case. I actually quite liked the main riff, and there's like a cool grunge quality of the vocals which I liked. The pace reminds me of Quicksand. There's a bit of post-hardcore in it, but come on, man, it's fucking 6. Why is it 6 minutes long?
Aye, that's mad.
It's just baffling. It's got a slow down section in the middle, and where they kind of channel some kind of psychedelic and some grunge vibes. But like, why would you not just bin that? You know what I mean? And then it's got a guitar solo for an outro, and it's like, well, you could just bin that section, chucked a guitar solo on the end, and you would have a much shorter and probably better song as a result. I mean, it's ultimately a frustrating song because it's just 6 minutes long, and it's like, what the fuck are you doing, boys?
Yeah, that's when you notice how this record ends up being 63 minutes.
Yeah.
So the 11th one, My Life with the Thrill Kill Cult, and a track called After the Flesh.
Innocent people being crucified.
Is this the worst song on the record?
Well, hang on, actually. No, I don't think it is, because this is another re-recording of a track that was originally called Nervous Gians, or Zians, Xians, and that was from 1988. My Life with the Thrill Kill Cult had been about quite a while. They're a really interesting band in some ways, kind of like peers of Ministry. I think they were quite friendly with each other. The original was a very early 90s kind of rave tune with these really sinister vocals buried way back. I've seen it referred to as industrial dance. I've seen other people refer to it as death disco. It's definitely part of the EBM movement for me, you know, so it's akin with like stuff like Frontline Assembly, that kind of thing.
Yes.
It samples the Amityville Horror. And and the band are actually in the movie playing it as well. I mean, it's wacky as fuck, right? And it is quite a different version from the original. But it's so unusual, and again, a bit like Golgotha Tenement Blues. To me, it's just synonymous with the film. I think it actually really, really fits. And it's nice that they have a club scene where it's not just some pure plodding, thumping dance music.
I hated the song. I hated everything about it. I've always hated the song. Even in the film, I hated it. And the vocals just really, really annoyed me. And
Cartman.
That repeating guitar riff just really ripped my knitting.
What about that sample that kind of goes...
Yeah. It's just fucking, it's a catastrophe of a song.
So the 12th one, the Jesus and Mary chain, Snake Driver. Hiya, Scottish lads.
Yeah.
I got syphilitic hetero friends in every part of town. I don't hate them, but
what the fuck? I was totally confused when I'm like, oh yeah, they're for East Bride. That's fucking mad.
Another bit of an outlier on here, because it's kind of buoyant and it's upbeat in a kind of slacker style. I've seen them and I've seen this song described as the Beach Boys on Smack. Well, totally, when you hear the tambourines, it totally works. So sonically, this tune really underlines how much Jesus and Mary Chain were the templates for bands like Black Rebel Motorcycle Club. I mean, they are so close to that sound. This tune actually appeared on the Jesus and Mary Chain's Rarities collection. They'd played it on Jules Holland live in like 1993. It's a really good version. And that was before the Crow release, so it wasn't written for the movie, but it was enough of a rarity that it's still kind of qualified under, you know, Jeff Most's criteria of wanting to bring new things to the party here, even if they were cover versions of already known songs or rarities, that kind of thing. Yeah, it's vocal performance of this song and pretty much most of the songs has got that Gen X slacker vibes all day long. And this song sounds very, very 90s as a result of that. On balance, though, it's quite a MIDI song, so it does really work well with the film. I quite like the lead guitars. They're quite noisy and shoegazy. I think they're a really influential band. They're a band that, a bit like Sonic Youth, there's a lot of people really warmed to their unfussy kind of energy. The 13th one, Medicine with Time Baby 3. I found out a remarkable number of things about this, by the way.
Yeah, me too.
Another Scottish connection, because the soundtrack version, like the official soundtrack version, has Elizabeth Fraser of the Cocktail Twins doing vocals.
sometimes it rains inside my head when the words run dry.
But the version in the movie is actually Time Baby 2, which is just the band Medicine.
Yeah.
I do.
Robin Guthrie also produced Time Baby 3.
Did he?
Yeah,
Oh, well, there you go. I do kind of wonder how the original singer of Medicine felt about the fact that she wasn't the singer on the soundtrack version.
Yeah, totally sidelined.
It's odd, isn't it? There is a demo of just Time Baby, as in Time Baby 1.
Yeah.
You have to excuse the sound quality, but I'll cut it in here. And they also inexplicably chose to do a Time Baby 4 on their Drugs album, and it fucking sucks, man. It's really bad. Time Baby 2 and 3, we'll say, a decent enough dream pop song, and I think again it helps lighten the mood of the compilation, stops it becoming too oppressive, and also breaks just the sheer overwhelming number of male vocals that are on here as well, which is quite good.
No, they don't have to take you away. No, they don't have to take you
Yeah, they're in the film, playing a snippet of Time Baby 2 as well.
Yeah, and that's the original singer.
Yeah, it's the original singer, aye. Elizabeth Fraser's voice is really high in the mix, which is unusual for her.
They went to the trouble of getting her.
Yeah,
so
totally. And Robin, who also produced it, is like, I'm getting my good close personal friend Robin. That's obviously what I call him. For me,
not down to just R.
Not down to just R, no, RG. Fraser's vocals don't really work for me. And that's not news. Anybody that's listened to this show and listened to a Cocktail Twins episode know that that's just kind of the thing. It's like my vibe. I don't like it. And it makes the song feel really wishy-washy to me. Somehow more so than the original. The second version, Time Baby 2. It's a total snooze for me, this song.
Yeah. I don't mind it. I mean, I didn't go out. I mean, I remember Medicine had one particular record that was quite successful, but I didn't go out and get any of their stuff. But it certainly wasn't like The Badge or the Rollins track. I would just skip those fuckers, but I didn't mind this one. And then the collection closes with Jane Siberry and the track "It Can't Rain All the Time," which clearly is how we started this podcast.
It can't rain all the time. It can't rain all the time.
A very iconic line from probably the most iconic line in the movie.
I hear pounding feet in the streets below, and the women are crying, and the children know that.
So this was co-written, as Mark said earlier, with the movie's composer Graham Revell.
It won't rain all the time. The sky won't fall forever. And though the night seems long.
This tune sucks, right? I mean,
it sucks, man. Yeah.
Am I wrong, or is her singing kind of rotten?
I don't. Yeah, it's just boring, man. It's a boring song. Like.
So Jane Siberry, I'm not trying to belittle her because she'd been performing as a kind of folky pop performer since the early 80s, and she still does, by the way. She had an album out last year. Here's a clip of her 80s single, "Everything Reminds Me of My Dog."
If you remind me of my dog, we'll probably get along. Little doggy, get along, little doggy. Yeah. Smiling at strangers reminds me of my dog. Better let them know you're friendly. The way people
Wow.
Wow. Here's a line as well. "Einstein reminds me of my dog. I want to pat his lovely hair." And
that's just quite a good line, to be honest. Like, I like that.
And I'm sure you agree that makes her an obvious choice for a supernatural tale of goth love, loss and revenge.
This song obviously fits the film, but it would have been good if it had a hook, I think, which it just doesn't.
I don't know how she got onto the radar, though. They were like, that woman that sings about patting dogs and all that kind of stuff, we should get her on this. It's a really odd choice, but more so for me, I think it's an odd performance, because I think she really struggles with that, the main line, "It can't train on.
Love will prevail. It won't rain all the time. The sky won't.
She's a good singer. I've heard other records by her, but it just doesn't feel like it was professionally done. I don't know what it is. So the collection for me ends on a bit of a
Yeah.
you know, I want it like that emoji, like that kind of bugs me about it. But putting that to one side, right? Conclusion: it's not as big as I thought it was. That's first thing I learned.
Yep.
See, I really love the ambition of Jeff Most and Jolene Cherry to try and bring nothing but new material into the world with this as well. You know, that decision to, yes, use an iconic song, but make sure it's a new version of it, or yes, get an iconic band of the time, i.e. Rage Against the Machine, use something that's not one of their better known tunes. There's something really bold about that, and no wonder they met so much hostility from the record company and the production, you know, the people funding the production. Obviously Trent Reznor helped them unlock that, but that thinking process, that plan, I mean, think how different that is to what most people are going for with soundtracks. That's not what they're prioritising. They're prioritising big pops, hooks, iconic stuff. They were really trying to do something new and fresh, and that's amazing. And it worked. It clearly worked. They brought new music, they brought covers into the world. They also tastefully altered the content of it to account for Lee's death, which I think is a nice touch. It showed that there was a real personal connection. These people spent a lot of time together on this production, and it sounds like there was a lot of good feeling between them. I know that actually Brandon Lee had quite a lot of input into the screenplay and the lines and the parts he was in, really trying to like help ramp up the charisma of the character. I think we clearly agree that it gave an overground voice to a large subculture at the time. It finally gave them a champion, if you know what I mean. Yeah, and as Paige Hamilton pointed out as well, it consolidated a lot of overlapping but disparate sounds under one umbrella, and kind of helped foster a more creative alternative environment generally. So I think it basically is a real labour of love that elevated a cult movie, and it had been a defining totem for a lot of people's teenhood,
Definitely,
myself included.
I think it's a testament to the longevity of the film and its cult status that we were able to find it in the period a long time after the film really had its heyday. You know, I found it in my teens, which would have been in the early 2000s. You know, so it was still, had been moving around in that subculture for a long time, just accruing this iconic cult status year after year after year. The soundtrack, it really does underline that. You know, it brings together all those disparate sort of genres into one cohesive unit. A good reflection.
Fairly cohesive. There are the asterisk a couple of them.
So it's a good reflection of the era. Sonic, you know, the different sonic textures, and some of the big hitters of the era are there. A couple which were not really as big as they used to be, like The Cure, for example. They weren't huge.
That's right,
you know?
because they've enjoyed a renaissance as well. Yeah. But there was a period where they sort of were in that awkward patch of their career where they were no longer young and fresh, but they weren't yet, you know, respected granddaddies of the scene.
And one of the things I enjoy about going back in time to see soundtracks like this is that you get to see the bands that never really went much further, or this was like their highest moment. You know, I like that we look back in time. It's one of the reasons why I like doing the cover mounts as well, because you get to see a really close look at what people really loved at that time. All those bands and all those artists are on that soundtrack because they were loved by the people that put it together. That's actually quite cool. Even if we didn't like them, and even if some of the bands didn't amount to much afterwards, it's just nice to see their taste reflected in a bit. It's like a mixtape, but just for everybody. That everybody can get their hands on, you know, and that's cool.
Absolutely. All right, well, there you go. I think we managed to somehow squeeze the Crow soundtrack into the unsung box.
No, I mean, we've also done a downward spiral, so you know.
Aye.
There's always that's the bar.
There was a lot more cramming with that one. This one we at least tried to guide it in. All right, cool. Mark, do we know what we're doing next week?
I'm sure ideas, man.
Well, I've got a couple of guests in the tank. How about we start ringing them up?
Yeah, cool.
All right, we'll get on it. And the sun is going down. Yeah, summer's definitely dying here, so it'll probably start raining all the time.
Yeah, it can't rain all the time.
No, it can. It can, and it does.
Bye.
Golfers teeing off remind me of my dog, the way he sits by me and shifts on his paws.
Bingo.
All right, Phil, we're recording now, so it's live. Go ahead. Pick on me the way that you want to.
Did I say that? I wouldn't say that to my son. Man, I mean, come on, man.
Just go. This isn't CBS.
All right, be quiet for a few seconds. Why would people want to listen to the Sims Complete podcast? Well, a couple things. One, if you like to see sons pick on their father, this might be the place. If you want to see a place where the father just kicks the out of his son, this would be the place. What do you like about it, Matt?
Ditto. Father-son dynamic duo talking about the game of football that we love and share and appreciate together. And, you know, hey, it's an extension of what we did, right? Growing up, I was able to watch my father play football, then obviously watch him as a broadcaster. And then he taught me the game of football and share the wisdom that he learned throughout his playing career. And, you know, hey, sometimes we're full of it and sometimes we actually know a thing or two.
Well, we do a lot of research. At least I do. You're a little spotty, but you know, you hang in there. It's fun. I love doing this and it's been awesome.
Sims Complete. Check us out wherever your podcasts are available on the Believe Network. Appreciate it. See ya.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.